Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. Today we have with us a physical therapist called Natalie Lopez, who is from LA, and she runs a blog called Beyond Basic Play, so she's going to run through the webinar with us. We also have Clare Greer here today, who is the Firefly Marketing Manager, and myself, Kathryn Devlin, who is the Occupational Therapist here in Firefly. So today our webinar is on how Scooot can promote independent mobility in the home environment, which Natalie is going to go through. So just if throughout the webinar you have any questions, you can just write those in the question box on the side of your screen, and we will try and answer those either throughout the presentation or else at the end of the webinar. And if you're watching this back, you can email any questions that you have to customer.inquiries@fireflyfriends.com.
Okay guys, and just to make you aware, Natalie is going to refer to a Scooot Activity Programme which we're about to launch. We'll be launching it next week, and I know you're all subscribed to our emails, so you will get notification of that. It's going to be available to download from the website. So she has used it in referring to this content, so hopefully you'll find it interesting and you'll be interested to download that next week.
So just run through the objectives of the webinar, and Natalie's going to talk about what is the Scooot and who is it appropriate for, the physical and developmental benefits of sitting and crawling, how Scooot is designed to promote improved sitting and crawling and independent mobility, and then there'll be a nice case history at the end, which will give treatment strategies on how to promote mobility using the Scooot in its various configurations. So now we'll just hand over to Natalie.
Hi Natalie.
Hello everyone. My name is Natalie Lopez and I will be talking about the Scooot today. So what is the Scooot? The Scooot is a configurable 3-in-1 mobility rider. It provides a means for self-initiated movement and independence for children with mobility challenges. The concept of Scooot came from Cerebra, a UK charity that aims to improve the lives of children with neurological conditions through research, information, and support. Cerebra then partnered with Firefly to create the Scooot on a larger scale. So who is the Scooot appropriate for? Scooot suitability depends on the child's level of physical development, hip width, and leg length. It is generally suitable for children aged 2 to 6 who are assessed at levels 1 to 4 on the Gross Motor Function Classification System. Children benefit most from Scooot if they have levels of head and trunk control and an ability to floor sit with limited pelvic support. The key point is to know that a child will find it difficult to use Scooot in any configuration if they have limited head and trunk control or sitting ability. How does the Scooot address mobility impairments? The wheels are important in promoting independent mobility in children with strength, balance, and coordination impairments. Having wheels to be mobile and prone, which is the tummy position, if a child is using their arms or legs to move forward, helps to facilitate independent mobility and further exploration. Having wheels to manipulate in sitting allows for independent mobility in sitting. Scoot's low position makes it a prime independent mobility tool for toddlers to progress their social exploration skills, since most toddlers are crawling or walking and manipulating objects they find on the floor or below table height at this time. Being at the level where their toys and peers are will not only allows for functional age-appropriate play, but it also allows for inclusion in toddler and preschooler activities at home and in school. There are 3 configurations for the Scooot. I will go over the benefits of using the Scooot in these different configurations, but there's the crawl configuration, the 2-in-1 Scooot configuration, and then the 3-in-1 ride configuration. Firefly created a Scooot activity program for parents to guide them on choosing activities for improving mobility, activity, and participation. The activity program guides activity choices by looking at what stage a child is in as they use the Scooot. So here are the stages to show you a sample. So here are the various stages for the ride configuration. and then the stages for the crawl configuration. And these are all going to be in the activity program that they're going to release next week. And then here's the Scooot configuration. And I will go over some strategies in these stages in this presentation. So who is today's case study? We have a 26-month-old girl named Jane. She had an unremarkable birth history and unremarkable signs on her MRI or CT scans. The family is currently doing genetic testing. She began receiving PT at 12 months, secondary to being unable to sit, roll, or crawl. She has low tone with poor head control and weak neck and trunk strength and overall gross upper and lower extremity weakness. A special thank you to Jane's physical therapist, Karen Livingston. She worked with me with Jane and helped film her and help me with this case study. And then also, as you can see in this photo, Jane is using the optional advanced backrest that comes with the Scooot because she has decreased sitting balance and trunk control. I will revisit photos and videos of Jane throughout the presentation.
Natalie, can we just clarify that unremarkable is just the undiagnosed birth history?
Yeah, so she had a normal birth history, no traumatic birth, and also her MRI, no abnormal signs on her MRI or CT scan. So nothing really to explain why she has decreased strength and mobility at this time.
Okay.
Okay, so what are the physical benefits of sitting? Sitting continues to strengthen trunk and abdominal muscles that are needed for crawling and standing activities. It continues to increase trunk strength and core strength through encouraging a child to maintain an erect posture as they manipulate items in their environment. It also continues to increase head control and neck strength as a child has more freedom to move their head into different positions in sitting versus lying on their back or stomach. Sitting also strengthens upper extremities as a child has more freedom of movement to use their arms to manipulate items in their environment. It also improves development of balance as a child has to practice keeping their body in this new upright position as they manipulate items. So what are the developmental benefits of sitting? It facilitates progression of social skills because a kiddo can now interact with their siblings or peers. And it can also improve communication skills secondary to proper positioning of the trunk to further facilitate speech development. Challenges that can affect sitting. In this photo, you can see some of the challenges that affect Jane's sitting, where she has decreased trunk strength and decreased neck strength and decreased head control. And right now she depends on support from that optional advanced backrest to support her in sitting. Decreased postural awareness can also affect sitting, which is the knowledge of how one's body is positioned, and then also decreased sitting balance, either decreased balance sitting still or decreased balance sitting and moving can also affect independent sitting.
Natalie, can I interject with a question from someone at this point? Would it be okay?
Yes.
So it's just a request to elaborate a little bit more on how much trunk control is necessary for Scooot. For example, this person's son can sit independently in a chair called a trip trap. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yes, I am.
But not solely on the ground without any support.
Yeah, on the next slide I talk about how much strength you need to sit on the next slide. I'll elaborate about the trip trap with that too. So in the sitting configuration, Scoot's backrest provides some support for those with low tone or decreased but minimally functional trunk strength. So there is a small backrest on the Scooot without the advanced backrest. The standard belt on the Scooot can be used for children with minimal or moderate trunk strength. So if your child's able to lean forward and then re-erect in a trip trap chair or lean to the side, then they can most likely just use the standard backrest on the Scooot. But if your child leans forward or to the side and needs assistance to sit up again, then they're probably going to need the advanced backrest because that provides support higher up, at least to the mid-back. Does that help answer their question, hopefully? So yeah, if your child can move and then re-erect and sit by themselves again with the support, then they are okay with the typical backrest. But if they are lean forward and can't get up again, they're probably going to need the advanced backrest.
Natalie, that's been great. Thank you. That's perfect.
So what are some mobility, activity, and participation strategies? And these categories I'm using, they're from Firefly's Activity Programme, which outlines activities through a model that focuses on mobility, activity, and participation. And I will use this model to demonstrate strategies on how to use the Scooot in its various configurations. So for Jane, for example, she started at stage 2 for the Scooot in the ride configuration, where she was able to tolerate sitting in the Scooot and brought her hands to the wheels but did not produce movement initially. So for mobility, we used a hand-over-hand facilitation, which I will show in the video, where we had to hold her hands on the wheels and move her hands to show the motion. For activity, the goal activity at this time was for her to improve her sitting balance with reaching and rotating her body. And then participation, we had her try to roll towards toys on the floor by putting them within reach of her hands. So I also created a handout that Firefly will show you later, just additional treatment strategies to help get your child to move in the different configurations. So here are just some examples if your child is in stage 1, which is they're able to sit in the Scooot. This one, the stage 1, the goal would be to bring attention to the wheels and the function of the wheels. So one of the first steps would be to move the wheels for them, so they begin to understand what that movement feels like, and then they can try to copy that movement. The next step would be to facilitate touching the wheels by using that hand-over-hand facilitation, which is to guide the child's hands on the wheels and move them through the motion of grabbing and moving the wheels. You can also tie flexible toys around the wheels to further attract attention to them, like yarn or rubber bracelets. You can also add stickers or paint stripes or any shape on the wheels to make them more visually attractive. And if you want to add a tactile item, you can also add bump dots, which is a suggestion from Firefly's Activity Programme, which you will see when they release it. So in this video, we are working on her sitting balance during a feeding activity. We had Jane's grandma feed her on her side to encourage Jane to work on trunk rotation and sitting balance while in the Scooot. And then she also tried to roll towards her grandma during this activity. And that's her physical therapist, Karen, you see on the right side of the video.
Set this row just to the end.
No problem. And in this video, you can see how the backrest is helping support Jane in sitting, since she does lean over to the side quite a bit.
How long ago was that, Natalie? Was this video taken?
This was probably 6 weeks ago. At least 4 to 6 weeks ago, soon after I gave her the Scooot. So here we're working on sitting balance and mobility during a play activity, trying to roll towards a toy. Here you can see the physical therapist is trying to move the wheels for her and also putting her hands on the wheels to encourage Jane to use them. Figures out what her physical therapist wants her to do. And you get in the videos you can see that she's not really moving her arms that much, but the Scooot is moving quite a bit. So the Scooot is very easy to roll, which I like that. Just a little bit of movement does encourage some movement in the Scooot, so which is nice for kids that don't have a lot of strength to try to really manipulate those wheels. Here's an example of hand-over-hand facilitation to promote moving her hands on the wheels. Just wanted to show one of the strategies the PT used. Jane really liked being pushed fast in the Scooot. She liked rolling around in it and got excited every time she got pushed in the Scooot. In this video, we are showing how she's participating in exploration around her home. She's practicing socializing with her family in a sitting position, and she's also working on sitting balance through rotation to look into the cabinets to explore. And she's also practicing holding an object in both hands, which requires, core trunk strength and also upper extremity arm strength and bimanual coordination, which is, using her right and left arms to execute a movement. And here, in this case, she's holding something with two hands.
Are they sort of organizing cupboards?
Yeah, they like taking her to the kitchen because that's something that, it's at that level where she can easily try to open the cabinets and see what's in, and then she helps her grandma a lot in the kitchen. So, yeah, they enjoy taking her to the kitchen. So the physical benefits of crawling, it promotes shoulder and trunk strengthening, further facilitates improving head control and neck strength. It begins to promote whole body movements where the arms and legs begin to work together to produce movement, and it begins progression towards advanced movement skills of combining movements of her right and left side in addition to stabilizing her trunk. It also promotes body awareness and balance training since the body is now moving around her environment and not just remaining in a static position in sitting. And in this photo, you can see that the scoot in the crawl position places Jane in a great position for her because it's at a great height off the floor that allows Jane to place her hands on the floor to weight bear effectively through her shoulders and her hips. Versus other lower scooters, you end up being bent elbows. So I really like this position for somebody like Jane, where they're able to easily place their hands on the floor and push up to get some weight going through her shoulders. So the child development benefits of crawling, the obvious one is independent mobility. Your child is now starting to move around their environment, which facilitates exploration and problem solving, how to get around and what are they going to find as they move around. It also facilitates building social skills and interacting with peers because now their peers are also mobile. Challenges that can affect crawling. Similar strength impairments for sitting can also affect crawling, but now also decreased shoulder and hip strength can also affect crawling. As you can see in this photo, Jane has decreased trunk strength and arm strength and also low tone throughout her trunk. But despite these impairments, her PT reported that the shape and the height of the scoot has allowed Jane to easily balance on top of it without additional support. So they haven't had to put an additional strap around her trunk to keep her safe, that she's been able to maintain this tummy position on the scoot. If you're concerned about your child rolling off the scoot, then if you want to add added stability, some strategies that therapists have used and parents is using a Velcro band around the trunk going around the bottom of the scoot, or a neoprene band or a TheraBand around the trunk, which also just gives some input into the scoot as well, so they understand that they have to kind of keep pressing down on the scoot if they want to stay on it. And so another challenge that affects crawling is decreased coordination, where it's difficult to combine leg and arm movements to crawl, and then also decreased motor planning skills, where it is difficult to produce a desired movement. So how does Scooot address crawling impairments? It provides support under the trunk and hips for those with strength impairments. It has wheels to promote easier mobility in prone, which is the tummy position, for those with coordination and strength impairments. And it provides tummy positioning at an appropriate height to work on weight bearing through hips and shoulders, and to work on increasing head control when in a supported tummy time or prone position. So we're going to be doing additional strategies for mobility in the crawl configuration. So mobility, activity, and participation strategies to promote independent mobility in the crawl configuration. So Jane started at stage 3 in the crawl configuration, where she can hold her head up and place her hands on the floor, but couldn't crawl in the tummy position. So for mobility, we placed toys just out of her reach to encourage her to crawl towards them. For activity, the goal activity at this time was for her to reach and interact with a cause and effect toy, or simply to reach and push a toy to manipulate it without assistance. And then participation, we had her try to crawl towards her grandmother, who was encouraging her to crawl towards the toys. Okay, next slide. So additional strategies for mobility in the crawl configuration. So strategies for stage 3, the goal is to demonstrate and promote how movement can happen while in the crawl position. These strategies are similar to strategies to promote typical combat crawling as well. So again, I would use the hand-over-hand facilitation to demonstrate how to move forward by moving arms and legs. I would place the Scooot at a downward angle with the back wheels on a slight elevation on a towel roll so that it is easier to move forward with a little bit of movement. And then if your child has enough grip strength, you can also have them hold on to a looped rope and try to pull themselves forward while on the Scooot. You can also bend your child's knees and provide support for them to push off your hands to push themselves forward while in the Scooot.
Okay, Natalie, we have another question.
Yes.
So one of the guys here is doing this exercise with a furniture mover. However, he feels that this is maybe quite dangerous because the hands can come in between the wheel and the ground. And how is that secured with the Scooot? So initially, I would say that the 3 casters that are underneath the Scooot, for crawl position, they're quite well tucked under the frame, but as well as that, I'm sort of guessing that you would sort of be keeping an eye on where the hand placement was and amending it if it wasn't ideal.
I would I haven't, even with this one, when I looked at the Scooot, it seems hard to get your hands tucked under there because it's also very low to the floor. I'm trying to think. I mean, if anything, you can tape, if you want to tape like a cardboard right at the edge of it, and so you can block so no fingers go under there. That's one strategy, some kind of paper or material all the way to the floor. But typically, it would be hard to, your child would have to internally rotate, turn their arms all the way in to tuck their fingers under the wheels. But I think I would do that. I would probably tape something to block all the way to the floor if it was something that they seem to be doing.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll go on to the next.
So that person is using like a dolly, like their child is on a dolly, I'm guessing? Is that what they meant by a furniture mover?
Yes.
I think I know what they're talking about. Like kind of like a typical scooter board, I'm guessing. So yeah, those wheels are more exposed versus the Scoots are more tucked under.
It is actually exactly that, yeah. So I would agree with you as well that it's going to be quite like a scooter board.
Yes. Yeah. Here in this clip, you can see how the Scooot is enabling Jane to weight bear through her shoulders and also working on increasing her head control and neck strength as she is trying to use her head to move forward as well. So you can see this crawl position really encourages increasing her neck strength and head control to look up at the toys around her.
One of the, just seeing Jane in this position, Natalie, one of the pieces of advice that we've got from a therapist that we do a lot of work with is that for just under the chin, it's possible to tuck like a small roll or something similar underneath the cushion so that you're a little bit of elevation. The child can almost rest their chin. So it's useful if they have poor head control or if they have breathing problems. So that might be that people might be.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Like use a little towel roll too and tape it down there. And also, I guess you can show in this picture for that person that was asking, you can see that she's even holding her hands underneath the Scooot, but the wheels are still further in the middle where she wouldn't get her fingers caught. Even if she's pushing forward, she's still able to grab underneath and her fingers are still okay. So.
Okay, that's you on to the next slide.
Okay, so the next one, example of promoting participation by trying to play with her grandmother. So in this video, her grandmother is calling for her and holding a toy. And you can see we're trying to have her progress to stage 4 in the crawl configuration, which is holding her head up and using her hands and or knees and feet to push forwards or backwards. But you can see how it places her nicely to put her knees on the floor, almost on the floor, and then her hands on the floor to try to move forward.
Did she like being, she seems like she's sort of enjoying being in that position as well.
Yeah, they really like this crawl and the ride position, and they're always changing them back and forth for her. They really enjoy both of them. So she's very comfortable in the crawl position. So mobility, activity, and participation strategies to promote independent mobility in the Scooot configuration. So Jane didn't use this configuration because her legs were a little bit too short to effectively reach the floor. But the configuration, her parents did do a modification where they left the wheels on. I'll show you in the next video, where they left the wheels on for the ride configuration, but then removed the leg support so her feet can still touch the floor. But I also created a handout with some strategies to promote movement in the Scooot configuration as well. But to use this configuration, you're now using leg strategies instead of hand strategies, arm strategies, as in the ride position. To use this, your child's legs must be long enough to touch the floor, and they must have enough strength to either straighten or bend their knees against gravity to produce movement while in the Scooot configuration. The benefit of this position is that it allows your child to use their legs to produce hip and knee flexion and extension, which are key movements needed for crawling and walking. So here's the modification of the Scooot, where they just took off the bottom support but left her wheels. And though she can't reach the floor, she does use her feet every now and then to try to hit toys with her feet, which is a strategy you can use in the Scooot, where you can have your child try to kick a ball or knock over pins while in the Scooot configuration. So how is Jane doing now? Jane has been using the Scooot for 2 months. Prior to using the Scooot, she was unable to sit independently on the floor. Currently, she now is able to sit 1 to 1.5 minutes with small weight shifts and can sit for over a minute without any support, which is a big, the parents are very excited because she made no progress initially for her first 6 months of physical therapy. She made no progress in terms of her sitting balance. So now after using the Scooot for 2 months, they're very excited to see that now she's finally starting to sit a little bit. Prior to using the Scooot, she also did not have a lot of arm activity and arm strength for any activities. But now that she's able to be in supported sitting so much more, she's using her arms more, and the PT reported that now she's much more active during her occupational therapy session. So it's great to see that it's translated over into the other disciplines. The main thing that the parents have loved about the Scooot is that they can now roll Jane anywhere around the house and have her be sitting and upright to participate with family activities, versus before they would have to find areas around the house that they could prop her and sit her that didn't involve being in a stroller or high chair. So they've really enjoyed having her be everywhere with them now and sitting, so she can keep working on the socialization and participating in family activities. And then here's a video we took of Jane yesterday, the day before this presentation, of just trying to use the Scooot in the ride configuration as she's trying to play with her dog. She still has trouble moving, but I think yesterday was a harder day to get her to be motivated to move, but she is moving the wheels to try to move forward and backwards. And she does like playing with her dogs on the floor to try to move to them. And then in this next slide, you'll see how she does like playing with her dogs, and they're little dogs, so she has to be on the floor to play with them, but she does enjoy being in the Scooot for that. So then if you have any questions now, I will take any questions.
Okay, guys, thank you, Natalie. That was really great. That was really useful. So if anybody does have questions, please type them in for the final few minutes of the webinar.
The great thing about the Scooot is that it is lower to the ground and therefore it enables participation maybe compared to other pieces of equipment that they have. So we have had another question just about that we only have the one size of Scooot and see if it would work for your child. Because obviously being able to sit with the advanced backrest provides you that extra support. And it would really just be the leg rest on it also adjust in length, so it would just be a case to see whether your child would fit in the Scooot or not, with the leg rest out to the full extension.
Yes, we just had a question, Natalie, sorry, about a size.
No problem, yeah, I'm listening. Yeah.
Inches long, so but this child wants to be independent and move around the room. So, Roseanne, you've asked that question. I would recommend that you go and have a look at the sizing chart on the web page. There's some key sort of measurements in there to see whether or not it's going to be suitable for your wee one. So, and if you have any further questions, send us an email and we'll support you in sort of trying to decide at customer.inquiries@fireflyfriends.com. There's one other question here as well.
So Natalie, would you advise that the pelvic strap is used along with the additional trunk support in the right position?
I would say you could use the pelvic strap if your child is arching their back a lot and lifting their hips a lot in that position, but if they're not one to arch or have excessive spasticity into extension, then you're probably okay just using the advanced backrest.
And we've one other question here from Maggie. Is there any chance of producing a version that is easier to switch between the configurations, as it currently requires tools and therefore does not happen?
Yeah, Maggie, that's something that we're all aware of. Is how user friendly that transition between the configurations is, and we know it could be more user friendly. So, hopefully in the future it's something that we can look at. At the minute, we're sort of, in here certainly when we're changing between configurations, we've sort of got very quick at it just because we're doing it so often. So it's like anything in that respect, but hopefully we will be able to improve on that.
One way is this child's parents, how they just left off the footrest, and that made it easier for them to switch back and forth between the crawl and the ride position. So that's one option. If your child doesn't need their feet supported, you can leave that front part off, it seems.
You'll always find if you're doing something often enough, it always becomes quicker. So if nobody has any other questions, I think that might be us, Natalie. Oh, no, one more.
So this is from Jerry. Is there more research available about effectiveness in comparison to more standard wheelchairs?
I mean, I can answer a little bit. There's not really a lot of mobility for this age group because they don't really go into wheelchairs until they start going to school. So, I mean, definitely you have research out there talking about independent mobility, or people that try to create something mobile for toddlers that does promote their speech and socialization, versus there's really no standard wheelchairs for this age group right now.
Okay, Natalie, thank you very much. And Jerry, thanks for that feedback as well. That's lovely. And please do, if anybody has any questions that they'd like to take offline, or if you're watching this back, please do get in touch at the customer.inquiries@fireflyfriends.com email address. So Natalie, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your sunny day in LA.
Thank you.
We're heading home on a very rainy day in Ireland.
Oh, well. All right. Thank you all for listening too. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.